So it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you just got out of that meeting and you're rushing home by the end of the day, and you get off the highway, and just as you make the turn, there is that little convenience store. You know the one. The one that has your favorite drink or your favorite snack or your favorite something. And you stop in, and without even thinking about it, you get out of the car, you go into the store, you get your snack, you get your drink, and you're in the car driving home. And then you realize, wait a minute, I decided that I wasn't going to do that today, that I'm not going to stop at that store. But guess what had happened? And that, my friends, is a habit. You can sometimes tell the kind of day I've had, actually. If you follow me and I make that right or that left off of the highway, and if I go by that store, then the day has been pretty good. But if I stop off, guess what? Yes, it's been one of those days. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight on our show, New Year, New You. Well, what are these habits? How do we master habits to reverse diabetes? If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, we educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, New Year, New You, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes. How do we put our diabetes in remission? How do we reverse diabetes? How do we get off of some of those diabetes medications? And that's what we've been doing as we move through the year so far. And we are now in the month of March, y'all. And I welcome you. If you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And say that we are glad that you are here. If you have questions as we go throughout the night, go ahead and put those in the comments in the chat, because I'd love to get to those. Make sure you put a Q and a colon in front of them so I'll know how to find those as we're going through the list of questions. And welcome. I see some folks that are already out there, and let's hop over and let's say hello to some folks. I see Teresa. Teresa said, hi, doctor and everyone. Teresa, so glad that you're here. Jennifer said, howdy, y'all. Glad that you are here. Sherry Dampier said, good evening from Brooklyn. Oh, man, Brooklyn. I got to give Sherry. Sherry, that's my neck of the woods, Sherry. I'm glad that you are here. Let's see who else we have. We have Steve Keller. Steve saying hello. And then, of course, Jennifer from Nebraska. We got Jeff, who's out there also. Jeff, hey, man, welcome. Glad that you are here. Yo. What are we doing? Man, we've talked about so much. As we have moved through the year so far. And, you guys know the numbers, right? You know the numbers. The numbers are huge. The numbers are high. So let's get into it. Yo. Have you heard this story before? I think I've told it before, but I'm going to tell it again. My wife and I, we lived in Ohio, and I was going through residency. And we decided that we were going to go on this health kick, and we were going to lose weight. At least I was going to lose weight. And I started, y'all, one of my favorite things, Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That's the thing right there. And so I didn't have any Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream for a long time. I mean, weeks and months. I think it was almost a year. And then my wife made the mistake of sending me to the grocery store. And I was in the grocery store, y'all. And you know how they do, right? They put that stuff right on the end cap. And I was walking by. I was minding my own business. I wasn't bothering anybody. I had gotten all the stuff I was supposed to get, and I was on the way to the checkout with my cart. And just as I walked by, I saw the sign. And the sign said, Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream, buy one. That's right, get one free. Now, here's my story. I'm sticking to this story. And before I knew it, two of those things had jumped into my cart. They had checked themselves out and had ended up in my car. right? And I'm driving home, right, on the highway, heading. We lived in Miamisburg at the time, and I'm heading home, and then I remembered, right, who's at the house? Right, my wife is at the house, and we're not supposed to be eating Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream. Now you're gonna have to catch up with me and get the rest of that story. But have you ever wondered why it is that those things that we want to do, right, that health kick that we're on, is so sometimes difficult? Why is it that we end up just falling into some of the things that we don't want to do, and the things that we want to do are the things that don't happen, right? And y'all, that's what's called a habit. And so tonight we're going to spend some time talking about habits. We're going to talk about those things that if we master them, they can help us in our diabetes journey and in the process of what we're doing. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Well, if you've been hanging around here over the last couple of months, you know where we're heading. All right. Our goal is diabetes in remission, diabetes reversal, diabetes medications away. Right? That's where we're heading. And we've got some tools that we've learned. We've learned and we've evaluated, right? We've come up with our why. We've decided why we want to do what we're doing. Why do we want to be healthy? We are working on, and many of you are fasting right now. You're doing intermittent fasting. You're working your way up to 1 24-hour period a week of fasting. And y'all, guess what? During that 24-hour period, your blood sugar should be so good that you probably don't need medication. And we're going to show you, right, like we do here, we're going to show you I got my meters over here, right? I've got my Dexcom loaded. I've got my Libre loaded. We're going to look at some of those numbers. But we've got those tools. And during the fast, right, we talked about those things that pull us towards eating, right? When we're not hungry, even not during the fast, on a regular basis. Remember our acronym, our model: HEAT, habits, emotions, access, and taste. And that very first one, those habits, are the things that push us in that direction. It's kind of like being on top of a hill, right? And you're standing right on the edge. And it is just so easy to go over. And once you get too far, once you lean too far over that hill, guess what? It's natural that we're falling down, that we're rolling down that hill. It's kind of like that boulder. You ever remember those old time movies, right? Those silent movies where there's a guy, he's at the bottom and somebody yells, yo-ho-ho, right? And the boulder or the snow starts coming down, right? It's so easy to fall into that because those are habits. And how do we master those? How do we master those? How do we get into the process? How do we get into the form? How do we get into the mindset of doing what we need to do when these natural things are happening? And so that's what we're spending time talking about tonight. How do we master habits? Mastering habits to reverse our diabetes. Because after all, we are working on decreasing the amount of insulin that our body produces, the amount of insulin that we're taking, the medications that produce insulin in our body, right? Because insulin, after all, makes us hungry. Insulin makes us have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and we put on weight and all those things that we've talked about. But if we have these little triggers that push us in the direction of eating, then all of that can be destroyed. So what do we do as we master habits? So the first question that we want to ask, of course, is, y'all, well, what exactly is a habit? Right? So what is a habit? So a habit is one of those things that is kind of, it's unconscious, right? They're those small decisions and actions that we repeatedly perform, often unconsciously, that shape our daily lives. Right? These are the things that happen automatically. It's kind of like you driving to work, right? You could drive to work the same way, and you've done it over and over and over. You're going to school. You're going to the grocery store. In fact, today I was on my way from work, and I was supposed to stop off at the store on my way home to pick something up. And I made the correct turn to go to the store, right? I was going to go to Walmart, right? I made the turn to go to Walmart, and I just drove right by it because I was so used to heading home. And I made it so far past the store, I said, well, I'll get that tomorrow. But you're driving, you get in the car, and you're driving to wherever you're going, and you don't even have to think anymore. And you find yourself at that place. You find yourself at the job. You find yourself at the office. You find yourself at the grocery store. You find yourself at mom's house, dad's house, your son's house, your cousin's house, because it's automatic. And you don't realize it until you pull into the parking lot or the parking spot. That is the power of habits. That's the power that they bring to us and the power that they sometimes seem to take from us. Because if they are so automatic that they push us in a direction that we don't want to go, what about if we could harness them so they can push us automatically in the right direction? And that's the beauty, because what we want to do is we want to break those habits that are pushing us in a direction that takes us away from our goal and begin forming those habits that are automatic, y'all, that push us in the right direction. Now, some people will say, and I've heard this argument before, that if it's a habit, it takes the power away from us, right? And one of our viewers, right, Jeff, I'm picking on you, Jeff. I remember one night we were talking about fasting, and Jeff said, "Is it cheating, right, if I fast before I go to see my doctor?" And I said, yes, it is. But that's the cheat code. And this, y'all, is the cheat code right here. The cheat code for making things automatic is the habit. If I don't have to think about it, but it's pushing me in a direction I want to go, thank you for that cheat code. That's what I want. I want to make it so that I almost don't even have to think about it anymore. And it has become a natural part of what I do, a natural part of me, right? So that's a habit. So what causes habits? What causes habits? And I am going to combine a couple of things here, right? So the habit loop is, cues, our response to the cue, and then a reward. That is the normal habit loop. But in the Atomic Habit, the writer, right, the author, comes up with actually a couple of other phases, right? So cues, cravings, responses, and rewards. And I want to give props to him, so this is not new to me, but it falls right in place with what we want to do. So what causes a habit? So at the heart of every habit, y'all, is a loop or stages that comprise cues, cravings, responses, and rewards. Cues, cravings, responses, and rewards. Okay, that's what they are. Cues, cravings, responses, and rewards. So let's talk a little bit about the cue. So the cue is really a trigger. And this is what initiates the habit. This is what starts the habit in the first place. It's a piece of information that predicts a reward. So a piece of information that predicts a reward. This trigger tells your brain to go into automatic mode. You get in the car, for example, to go to work, and you turn the key, and almost your brain takes over. You don't remember the turns, you don't remember the stops, you don't remember, right, all of that stuff, except that, hey, all of a sudden I'm at the office. All of a sudden I'm at the grocery store. I'm at the mailbox or the post office. I'm at church. I'm at my son's house. I'm at my daughter's house. It is automatic. So once that cue, once that trigger happens, we fall directly into this path, if you will, and it's almost like getting on the top of a slide. You remember those old slides? Yeah, I remember going down. So you get on top of the slide, and and I remember, right, when my son was young, we'd take him to the top of the slide, and he when he was young, a little younger, he was afraid to go over. right? So what we have to do, we got him right, on the part where he's just balancing, and we just sit him there, and we say to him, just lean over, because we knew once he leaned over far enough, gravity would then take him straight down the slide. And that's what happens with the trigger. The trigger happens. There's this cue. There's this thing that happens that says to the brain automatically, okay, let's go down the slide. Right? And recognizing cues, these are crucial because they are the things that launch us into this habit loop or these phases that we're talking about that take us into the habit and take us into the behavior that sometimes can sometimes derail us if we are not careful, but help us if we harness it. So example of cues, right? So you see the running shoes next to the door. It triggers your thought of going for a run. Now that's an easy one, right? And that's the one we want. That's the cue we want to build. That's the cue we want to get there. That's the process we want to go to. But often that's not the one, right? The cues that we get is, hey, it's 2:00. Let me have a snack. And for, or I've told you the story. I fly into LaGuardia or JFK and I leave and I don't even have to think anymore. I automatically go pick up a hot dog or a piece of pizza, a slice of pizza or some Chinese food. It is automatic, y'all. It's becoming less automatic, by the way. Okay, I'm working. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Right. So those are our cues. Right. So seeing your running shoes, you go for a run. So in the context of diabetes, a cue could be the time of day, like I just said, like mid-afternoon when you typically reach for a sugary snack. Hey, it's 3:00. Hey, it's my break. Hey, it's whatever. And we just reach for it without even thinking. It's an automatic process that we go through. So the cue happens, and then the craving. So the craving is the motivational force behind every habit, y'all. Because if even if you had the cue, even if you saw the cookie, or even if it was 2:00, or even if it was, hey, I'm flying into New York, if there wasn't the craving, if there wasn't the motivation, we would ignore it. So the motivation, the craving, it's not the habit itself that we crave, but we crave the change in our state that it brings to us. So what does it bring to us? What feeling do we get from it? When we talk about the HEAT model, the HEAT said that we eat because of habit, emotions, access, and taste. So that emotion, those emotions, they fall into several categories. And here they are. We find these emotions again because they're the things that are going to reinforce what we're going to do. So we got the craving. You saw the cookie. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm at the airport, right? We went bowling. We went to the movies. I'm hanging out with my family. That's the cue. But the craving itself is the motivational force that says, okay, now let's act on it. And understanding the cravings, this is essential because they're the driving force that push us to respond. They're the things that say, hey, yeah, let's go do this. Right? So we don't crave the habit of eating a chocolate bar, but we crave the feeling of satisfaction and pleasure that the chocolate bar brings. Like I could never, maybe some of you are out there. I don't eat cookie dough, but there are people who eat cookie dough. My thing is Ben and Jerry's. I'm just gonna say that, right? I was in here. When was it? Oh, probably about a year ago. And I was up late because I'd been woken up. I was sleeping. They called me from the hospital. There was a patient in the ER that they needed to ask me about. So I woke up and I was tired. Okay, so I dealt with it, and now I'm up, and I was getting ready to walk back into the bedroom. And at that time, I did have some Ben and Jerry's ice cream in the refrigerator, and my brain says to me, "Man, you're tired." Now it should say I'm tired and I should go to bed. Isn't that what it should have said? But guess what? It says you're tired. Have some ice cream. I'm not quite sure how those two went together, but they did. And I felt better. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes we say, oh, when we eat the stuff, it doesn't make us feel better. Yes, it does. That's why we do it. Right. And here we're talking specifically about food, but there are other habits that we have that bring us some relief, some pleasure, something else that's going on. So there I was tired, and the ice cream made me calm, and I was able to go to sleep. I went back to sleep. Right. So we don't crave the chocolate, but we crave the feeling that we get from the chocolate. So we got the cue, we got the craving, and then y'all, we have the response. Now the response is the actual thing that you do. It could be a thought or it could be an action. When we're talking here, we're talking about an action that we do, but the thought can lead to other actions, right? So an action could be, hey, it's 3 o'clock. Hey, it's 2 o'clock. Hey, it's the afternoon. Hey, it's whatever. And we go get snacks. Or we could think, hey, when this is done, when I'm finished watching this movie, we're going to go to dinner. So we have a thought and action. So the response occurs depending on how motivated you are and how much friction there is associated with the behavior. If it's easy to do, then we naturally do it. It's kind of like being on that slide, being on the top of the hill, that boulder that's going to roll right down. If it's an easy process, then we do it, right? If it's not easy, we don't do it. It's kind of like having an easy button. If it's easy and there's high motivation, remember the motivation, right, is that craving, then you're more likely to do it. So the higher the impact, the more likely it is to happen. And then finally, y'all, the reward. The reward is the end goal of every habit. So we don't just have habits just to have habits. The habits bring something to us. The habits bring a benefit to us. Even habits that we call unhealthy habits. Because you would say to yourself, and I've said to this myself all this time, I know the result of eating the ice cream. Like, I know my blood sugar is going to be high. I know my weight's going to go up. I know, right? So we know those things. But the reward that we get overpowers the knowledge that we have. Right? So that's what's going on. There is this feedback loop that we've developed that says the thing that I'm getting immediately from doing this behavior far outweighs the detriment that it causes. Right? So the reward is satisfying. It satisfies our cravings, right? Because remember, the cravings are the things that push us, and it teaches us which behaviors we should remember. Like, which are the ones that make us feel good? Now, initially, and this is a whole other, gonna have lots of conversation about this. So when you first, like, for instance, let's take somebody who's never eaten chocolate. I don't know where we would find that person, but we can. Somebody who's never eaten chocolate. Like, they don't already know that chocolate is going to make them feel good. Right? So there's not that connection yet. They don't know that the ice cream is going to make them feel good. So the first time they eat the ice cream, then they get that burst of whatever, sweetness, and they feel good because the ice cream, the chocolate, it releases the sugar. And sugar, y'all, makes the body feel good. The body likes it. We get that dopamine burst that comes out, right? That reward of eating it. It may even cause our cortisol level to go down a little bit. It calms us. And so the next time something happens, the brain says, hey, you remember that stuff that we had? Right? You remember that donut? You remember that Krispy Kreme? You remember that Dunkin' Donut? I'm from New York, so that's why I say Dunkin' Donuts, right? Down here, they have Krispy Kreme donuts. Right? Here's the thing. I used to work at Baskin Robbins, y'all, when I was growing up. Yeah, I used to work at Baskin Robbins right there on the corner of Nostrand and Flatbush. We call it the Junction. There was right now there's what is there now? I think there's a Target there. But yeah, there used to be a Baskin Robbins Dunkin' Donut, and that's where I worked. Yeah. Let's talk about cravings, talk about temptation, right? And so the body says, hey, you remember that stuff that we had? Let's go get some more of that. And so we get some more of it, and this time we get the same burst, right? It feels good, it tastes good, we get that sweetness, we get that burst of dopamine. So the next time something happens, here's the insidious part. The body doesn't even wait for you to eat the thing for you to get the dopamine. It pumps some dopamine out in preparation for you to have it. So even when you're like, I'm not going to have it, that dopamine comes out and it's flooding your system. And the body says, we like how that feels. Let's go get it. And we get it and we're hooked. Because it remembers. That's what's going on when we're talking about habits. The body remembers what was there and it says, hey, let's go get that. Let's go get that stuff. And because it feels, y'all, amazing. It's like, man, it's like it's in 3D. I can't believe what just happened. Could you imagine how that made me feel? That taste? Let's get some more. So what are some examples? We feel calm after an argument and after we eat cookie dough. Right. Now here's one that I feel a lot, right? It doesn't have to do with food, but it is a reward. And this is my example to show you that it does not have to be food. We talk about food. We're talking here about diabetes, but you get a sense of accomplishment after completing a task. Like when I finish here tonight, after I finish talking with you guys and I get off, yeah, I get that buzz. And I've said to you before that if you found me after a show, after I've done a live, you can like plug a light socket. You can plug a light bulb into me and the light bulb will probably glow. Because that's how much energy I have. In anticipation of coming on. Right, I get a dopamine burst because I love this. Right, so there's that cue, there's the craving, there's the reward that comes from it. Right, so it doesn't have to be just food. Right, that's how we form all kinds of habits. Right, because there is a benefit that we're getting from what we're doing. Right, and my benefit of being here is community. Right, you guys have heard me talk about community. Right, we educate, we empower, and we encourage. Right, beautiful community. So those are some examples of that reward that we get, and so we go through that loop, if you will, the cue, the craving, the response, the reward. And after a while, y'all, it just becomes automatic. And we ask ourselves, how did this happen? Right? It becomes more and more automatic because each time we have it, each time we go through the process, the body gets better. We get more. We feel better, and every time something happens. Now here's what happens sometimes. And let me pop over to this screen. Let's talk a little bit about this. So it started out It started out because we wanted to feel better after that meeting, right? So that was the initial thing. Say that was the cue. 2:00 in the afternoon. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. I'm hanging out with some friends. I'm hanging out with whatever the reason was. And so we formed this loop. And after a while, the body remembers what it felt like to have that thing. So now the body takes you and it makes you use that same process for other stuff. It started out because you were frustrated. It started out because it was afternoon. It started out because it's 3:00. But now you're tired. And the body says, hey, I wonder if that stuff we had last time could make us feel better when we're tired. Hey, I'm in pain. Hey, I wonder if that stuff we had last time could make me feel good now that I'm in pain. Hey, I don't want to talk. I don't want to have that conversation. Hey, I don't want to face this particular thing that's happening. I wonder if this stuff will calm me down. You see what just happened? Not only do we form a habit because now it's automatic, but we took that habit and we extrapolated it across multiple domains. And we ask ourselves, how did that happen? And it happened because of that process. Craving, response, reward. Or cue, craving, response, reward. That's what's going on. So cues, y'all. What are some cues, right? So cues are those things that trigger, right? By identifying the cues that trigger our routines and the reward we're looking for, we can start to unravel and rebuild our habits in a way that supports our diabetes management. And just like we had the HEAT model, I want to give you 4 things. Reasons. So habits. Why those habits form. Number 1, they form because of time. And you've heard me say it over and over here, even tonight. Because of time, right? It's, 7:30 a.m. I eat because it's breakfast time. It's 10 o'clock, so I eat because it's snack time. It's movie night, so I eat because it's movie night. Now, here's the thing. You could have just had dinner. You could be full, but if you go from the dinner table and say, hey, tonight's going to be movie night, you go from the dinner table and you go and you sit on the couch, you turn on the TV, and we're popping popcorn. Why? Because it's just what we do. Now, let me pause and say this. What we're talking about here, this is the process of the triggers. These are the things that happen. These are the habits. We're not saying whether eating popcorn with movies is bad. Okay? That's not what we're saying. But I want you to understand what pushes us in the direction of those things. So that we then get to make the decision. Now, I'll tell you, my son loves popcorn. As a matter of fact, there's this thing that he makes. It's cinnamon Chex with popcorn with brown sugar, right? That he makes. He loves that for movies. Now, I'll have a handful. I don't have as much as he does, but right. So I sit there and I have some. Why? Because my son made it. Now we talk and say, hey man, I'm not gonna eat all of that. But I have some. And this is where sometimes we can become derailed. And you've heard me say when I was in Jamaica last month, 2 months ago, you'll remember that I was doing a fast. I was doing one of my 72-hour fasts. And while we were there, we ran into some friends and we went to their house. Right? Friends that we'd known them for a while, maybe 20 some years. We didn't run into them. We actually arranged to see them. Right? It's because they lived there. So we went to the house and my friend, I was sitting down talking to him and his wife, and while his wife got up, she made some juice and she handed me a glass. And guess what? I was in the middle of a fast. I drank it. right? So in your process, I want you to make sure that your management of your disease is fitting into your life. So you're not sitting at the corner eating rice cakes and celery. There's nothing wrong with those, right? When everybody's sitting at the table enjoying fellowship, right? Because sometimes that process of sitting at the end of the table can derail us because it makes us isolated, right? You show up at somebody's house, hey, I can't eat any of your food because I'm fasting. Well, first of all, don't tell anybody you're fasting. You don't have to, right? You can sit and have a conversation and say, okay, thank you, whatever, right? Don't make it a thing, right? Don't make the way you eat a thing. Make sure people, the people are fine. You're with your family. Make sure your family's with you, right? And that's it. Just go about your business on a natural, normal basis, right? You don't have to advertise to the world that this is what you're doing. All right. So that's you guys got me on one of those things I like to talk about. Okay. All right. So it's 7:30. I'm going to eat because it's breakfast. It's late night. I'm going to have a snack. Right. So these time-based triggers can often lead us to go down that habit process, right, without actually being hungry. The next trigger for habits is location and context. Our environment is full of cues that can trigger us. At my office, right? So we have the pharmaceutical reps who come in. We have people who come by, patients who bring stuff to the office, right? And if I'm not careful, I walk by the break room and there's some pie sitting there. Maybe they brought some cookies during the holidays, right? So there are the cues that are there, right? Even here in my office, I've had to take the nuts out of here. I don't have any. Well, actually, there's some right there, but I had to take the cashews and the almonds out because, right, if they're sitting here, guess what, y'all? I'm eating it. Yeah, I know you're saying, oh, Dr. Wood, if you were stronger, if you were like, yeah, you wouldn't eat it. No, I'm going to eat it because it's right here. So I take it away from me. And that's going to come in the next slide because we're going to talk about how do we fix some of this stuff, right? The next thing is, what was the preceding action? What was the thing that happened before the thing you did? Right? The sequence of events sometimes pushes us in a direction. That can be a trigger. And here, once again, there's that emotion part that comes from our heat model. A stressful meeting leads you to snack. So if every time you come out of your meeting, you're grabbing something to eat or grabbing something to drink, guess what? It's the meeting that's preceding it that's causing the habit, that has caused the habit, because your brain says to you, hey, we just left the meeting. We know we're not hungry, but this stuff that we did last time was so good. Let's do it again because it's going to help us out. And then other people around you have an amazing ability to affect your behavior. They impact what we do. Family, friends, colleagues. I told you guys, I don't go down to the cafeteria at the hospital anymore. Not for lunch. I may stop by, see if anybody's in there later, but I don't go down at lunchtime. Because it's a social environment, right? We're sitting around with my colleagues, these guys and gals that, I kick it with, and we eat. So while you're talking, sometimes you don't have the presence of mind because it is a fellowship time and we're just grabbing. Oh, Dwayne, try this. Oh, let's do this. Oh, right? No. Right? So other people have an ability to affect us. So how do we break habits and form new ones? So breaking old habits and forming new ones, it's not easy. What did I say, y'all? It is not easy, but it can be done. It is definitely possible with the right approach. Whether it's planning your meals, incorporating exercise into your daily routine, which we'll be talking about exercising. We've not addressed that yet. Or improving your medication adherence. Small changes can lead to big results. There is a book, and of course, as soon as I said that, so I talked a little earlier about the Atomic Habits, and this one is called The Compound Effect. Dan Hardy, I believe, is who wrote the book. And he talks about how small changes can lead to big results. Often we think that, that bag of chips that I ate, that's not going to mean anything. Oh, that piece of cookie or those nuts that I ate, they're not going to mean anything. But guess what, y'all? They add up. They add up, and they can cause us lots of issues down the road. Because remember, every time we put something in our mouths that have carbs, then our blood sugar spike. When the blood sugar spikes, then the insulin spikes if our body makes insulin. Or if our body's not making enough insulin, then we've got to treat it by taking more insulin from outside to bring the blood sugar down. Or we have medications that we've taken, pills or other non-insulin shots that are producing insulin in our body. And the reason we've got to produce the insulin is because the blood sugar went up. The blood sugar spiked. So these habits that we have of snacking, going to food, then those habits cause the rise in blood sugars leading to the insulin. And remember, we are not so much concerned about blood sugar here. We're concerned about the insulin. If we manage the insulin, y'all, the blood sugar will take care of itself. Now, for those of you who are new to us, that's a new concept for you, right? Because we've been concentrating, all you've been told is concentrating on sugar. Now, sugar is important. The blood sugar is important, so don't get me wrong, right? Because it is the blood sugar that causes the damage. But the incident or the thing that's causing the resulting blood sugar to be high is the fact that the insulin is not functioning properly. And the insulin is not functioning properly for lots of different reasons. Okay? So breaking the habit, right? We want to make sure that we're putting some things in place to begin breaking that. So let's look at some of these triggers that we've been talking about, right? So phase one. And so these are the triggers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 that we just went through. So time. How do we fix that one? We monitor our daily routines and we note the times when we are engaging in certain behaviors. In this case, we're talking about food. And ask ourselves, am I doing this because I need to or because it's just the time? Am I doing this because I have to, because I need to, or is it just time? Does that make sense? So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to be aware, right? Okay, these are the groups of things that cause a habit. My time, right? The location, and we'll go through the others in a minute. But what's going on? This thing that I'm doing. And notice, I'm not telling you to stop doing it. So in my office, sometimes my patients or people that I'm talking to, they'll look at me kind of, inquisitively, because I'll say to them, I'm not telling you to stop eating cookies. I'm not telling you to stop eating ice cream. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, what I'm asking you is to find out why you ate the ice cream. Because the ice cream did what it's supposed to do, right? What do you think the purpose of ice cream is? The purpose of ice cream is to taste good. Right? Purpose of ice cream is to raise your blood sugar. That's what it was designed to do. So the ice cream did its job. The question is, why did you eat the ice cream? So often we try to take food away from people without finding out why they went to the food. Because if we figure out why they went to the food and we fix that problem, guess what? we wouldn't have to worry about ice cream or cookies or cake or candy or donuts. Right? Am I doing this because I need to or because it's just that time of day? Right? Remember, time is one of the things that push us to eat. Number 2, right? Location. Right? The environment that we're in. So I told you that I had to change my environment. My wife is a big helper in this. Sometimes I get annoyed. I have to say it because, we'll have people over and, we'll have, cake or juice or whatever it is. And if I go out to the store, I come back and it's all gone, y'all. Right? It's like the secret police came in and they packaged it all up and they took it away. Like she'll send all the stuff with people. Like I'll go drop somebody home who may not have had a ride, and I'll come back and all the juice is gone. I was like, you couldn't at least save me like one, but you know what? She knows. She knows me. And so that's her way to help me. Honey, thank you. Even though sometimes I'm not always happy. Yep. A little bit of juice. I'd like to have a little bit of juice. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Sorry. Right? So what are those things so we want to minimize the cues in our environment? During fasting, one of the things I don't do, I try not to do. I did it last week actually, and I think it didn't do me well. So I was fasting. I was probably 2 days, 48 hours in, and I didn't bring, because I told you I use unsweetened tea. So I didn't bring any to the office. And so I went down to the cafeteria to get some at lunchtime. Not the physician lounge, because I don't go there. But I went to the main cafeteria in the hospital. And I walked down there, and as I got off the elevator and started heading towards the cafeteria, guess what hit me? That's right, the smells. Right? Those cues. Right? So all that stuff. All right. And then, so so clean your area. So number 1, figure out why you did it. Is it just time? And we need to change that process. We need to break that process. Number 2, is it the area? Right? Clean our area. Number 3, what was the thing that happened right prior to this particular habit, this particular thing that I do? Trace it back from the unhealthy thing you did and find the preceding action. And then once you do that, you want to create a new, healthier chain, right? So when you come out of the meeting, right, don't go in the direction of the vending machine, right? Sometimes we plan, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep these Skittles in my desk so I can have some after the meeting. Well, you've just planned to reinforce that habit. Right? Make a different plan. Don't just fall off the slide. And then people, evaluate the people that are around you. Evaluate the people that are around you. Do you find yourself every time you're with these particular folks that you eat? Every time you're with this group, you do this, right? Whatever the habit. Right here, we're talking about food and diabetes, right? But this can be applied to everything. And what you want to do is you want to start joining communities, right? Hey, shameless plug, right? You want to join communities where the people that are in the community are doing the things that you want to do. Now, you may not be able to change what's going on at home or the people that are in your immediate circle. Create a bigger circle so that the things you do are now normalized. How many of you have done something that you weren't like gung-ho about doing, but you did it because the group that you were with did it? Now, I'm not talking about crazy bad stuff, right? I'm talking about, right? But even that, right? You did it because you were in the group. That's the power of community, y'all. So surround yourself with people that are doing the things that you want to do. And if you do that, then you can manage the habits, manage the triggers, manage the things that are going on. Yep. Does that make sense? So that's the plan. That's how we overcome. That's how we beat the trigger. That's how we get through. That's how we modify. That's how we get triggers to help us, not triggers, but habits to help us reverse our diabetes. Because the things that we do, every little bit counts. Every little bit counts. And as we go through the process, right, of what causes a habit, right, we got to hit these things: the cues, the cravings, the responses, and the rewards. We got to work with those. And we've got to begin dealing with the triggers. And remember what those triggers are, right? Those things that make those habits automatic. Things we do because of time, because of location or context. What preceded bringing us into this situation, this habit that we're in, and then the people that we are around. Yo. All right, well, let's see we got some folks out there, and let's hop over and let's see if we got some questions, got some comments. I saw a lot of folks come in. I heard those. Let's see. Jeff, we said hi. Sherry from New York, yes. Teresa, I guess you were laughing at my story. Was that the story about the Ben and Jerry's? I'm assuming. And hey, Key's here. Key Washington said we are a work in progress. Yes, we are. Yes. Key says yes. I live an hour from Vermont. And in the 90s and got hooked on Ben and Jerry. Really? Key. Yes. Is this something else? Okay. See, I'm starting to salivate. Jennifer says our neighbor has a dairy. They sell their own products. I buy buttercream, plain yogurt, sometimes the ice cream too. They had a hot chocolate flavor for Christmas. Hot cocoa flavor for Christmas. I sent my husband most times now. See? Yeah. I sometimes don't go, right? Teresa said, Jennifer, talking about access. LOL. That's right. She has it right next door to her, right? Teresa said, you are so real and we appreciate that. Teresa, it is, it's interesting that I was sharing with someone just recently, and I think maybe I've said it even here, that one of the best things that I ever did was to begin was getting comfortable enough to begin sharing my story. You know why? Because when I didn't share my story, it was so easy, right? And you guys may identify, it's so easy to hide. Yep. But what community does, right? What community does is community not only supports you when things are rough, but community calls you to be better. So my guys who I went away with, we were sitting around talking, and I was sharing some stuff with them. And so what you would also need is community that will be real with you. So I was sharing something with them, and I was expecting them to like come down on my side, blah blah blah, and they're like, "No, man, look, listen, right?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, that's not really what I want to hear." Right? Sometimes you have those people. And that happens when people are real. When people feel comfortable enough to say, hey, this is what's going on. And that's why I love where we are. I love this community that we're building, because we get to say to each other, hey, look, this is where we are. This is where we're heading. And to say, this is where I'm failing, or this is where I'm not doing so well. And so I love that. So thank you for that, Teresa. Appreciate that. All right. Well, let's take a look at some numbers, right? So I've been talking the whole time. Where before I do that, let me ask you guys some questions, right? Questions. Number one, are there some places here that you saw yourself, right? What triggers you? What triggers you in your habits? Is it time? Is it location or context? Is it your environment, right? Is it some event that happens, some routine thing that happens? Or is it the fact that you are around people who may not be at your place yet, right? Some people move at different paces, right? So phase 1, 2, 3, or 4. Where do you think you are? Drop it in the chat, right? Drop it in the comments. 1, 2, 3, or 4. All right. So as we do that, let's hop over because I want to take a look at my blood sugars. If you guys remember, we ended our fast back on Friday evening. And here is what my Libre is saying my blood sugar is right now. Let's fix this right here. 96. My Dexcom is saying that my blood sugar is 117. And remember, there's that difference between the two. And it seems like the Dexcom tends to be about 15 points or more above the Libre, right? Which is why I have these two meters that we're going to use here in just a minute to show what our blood sugars are, right? Teresa says, hiding is easy. I saw myself in timing and certain events. Yep. Let me change this so we get your comment there really quickly. Yeah. So we have to identify what are the things that we personally need to work on. All right. So let's take a look at some of these numbers. Let's see. Let's grab. And like I told you guys, I have a contour meter, and I have a contour meter because this is the one that we currently use in the office. We've used things like One Touch, Vario in the past, but this is where we are. Okay, and so we've got that. Let's go ahead and take I'm gonna try this finger. I know. Let's see if I poke that enough to get a drop of blood. Another drop here. Okay, so that's 90. And then this guy says 107. So right now the contour, right, is the highest. Well, it's between. What was the Dexcom? Yeah, so Dexcom is 119. So the contour is actually between the two, right? All right. So that's that. And let's go ahead and let's see what my ketones are. So remember, we ended the fast back on Friday. I think I checked it this morning and it was 0.5. So I'm going to see what it is now. Oops. Did I get I think I need another drop of blood, y'all. Okay, let's try that again. All right, there we are. Come on. Here we go. What do you think it's going to be? All right, 0.4. All right. So let's talk a little bit about ketones again. Remember, ketones are the things that we want to happen. Ketones are the things that we want because it's at that point that our body switches from burning carbohydrates and it starts burning ketones. Well, obviously. All right. So ketones, if your ketones are less than 0.5, that means you're not in ketosis, which I am not right now. 0.5 to about 1.5 is therapeutic, nutritional ketosis, and above that is therapeutic ketosis. So during my fasts, I am usually between, well, higher than 0.5, definitely. That first day, maybe I'm 0.5 to 1.2, and then as we get into day 2 and day 3, then we get higher. It is at 24 hours where the body stops burning glycogen and starts burning fat. So right now, our goal, if you remember, is 24 hours once a week of fasting. And we'll come back. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. All right. If you are out there, go ahead. If you have questions, pop those in. This is a great place for us to do our thought of the day. But I see, let's see, Teresa says, okay, so that's the one that she said earlier. I see myself in timing in certain events. Yeah. So if you're there, go ahead and drop that in the comments, because we'd love to know where you see yourself. And if you are fasting, or if you've been fasting, drop in the comments how far you've been able to go, right? Have you been able to do the 24 hours? Are you at 18 hours? Are you at some other number? Because we'd love to hear and see where you are, and to celebrate you, by the way, right? So we want to celebrate where you have been. All right. Okay, and so let's hop over and let's go ahead and do our thought of the day. And our thought of the day is this: you can only go as far as your systems. You can only go as far as your systems. In the process of reversing our diabetes, in the process of life, really, the things that we do and the things we can accomplish are amazing, and they're very grand. We can do one-offs. We can bear down, and we can white knuckle it, and we can have some success just by sometimes almost willing it, right? And almost holding our breath. But that only lasts for so long. If we want sustainable, long-term benefit, if we want long-term improvement, if we want improvements that we can do for the rest of our lives, the things that we need are systems and structure. You can make a cake. You can cook a dish. You can put up a house. Sometimes just by happenstance. But if you want the house to stand and be solid, if you want that dish that you make to be consistently good, if you want that cake to be the way people like it, then you got to have a recipe. You got to have a process. You got to have a plan. So in your life, as we are working to put your diabetes in reverse, in remission, and reverse your diabetes, to get you off medications, to decrease the burden of all of the chronic diseases you have, are you putting systems in place that allow you to have the benefit that you need to get better? So you can only be as successful as the systems you have in place. So my encouragement to you is to find systems that are taking you where you want to go. Find systems that will help you in that direction. Find systems that you can put in place, like we've been talking about habits. Those habits that we break, that are unhealthy, we want to replace them with systematic habits that take us in the direction we want to be. And that's our thought for today. All right, everybody. Wow. And we've made it to the end of another show. Let's see. Jennifer says, actually, Jennifer, let's do it this way. Jennifer says, started fasting last November, had done several 24-hour fasts, 2 48-hour fasts. Last week, completed a 72-hour fast with you. Yoo-hoo! She said that she felt fine. Let me go back to her note. Until she started refeeding, then woo, that was difficult. So Jennifer, what aspect of refeeding did you find difficult? Was there something? Did you start out slow? As a matter of fact, why don't you pop in the chat and let us know what it was that you ate when you first when you broke your fast? All right, what did you eat when you broke your fast? She said, I broke my fast in the evening. I ate late, protein snack. The next morning, I was hungry, very hungry. Okay. Okay. So I think let me address a couple of things there, Jennifer. And so for everyone, and when we're breaking the fast, as Jennifer has seen us do, we want to start slow. Okay. One of the things that I propose is that we start fasting in the evening, right? So that you are sleeping for a big part, particularly if you're doing it's just the 24-hour, so that you are sleeping for a big part of the fast. Okay, so if you start in the morning, then you've got you got the whole day ahead of you, and then another 12 hours and so forth. But if you start in the evening, by the time you wake up in the morning, then you have already gone 8 hours or 9 hours into the fast, which is a great thing. One of the drawbacks of ending the fast in the evening, however, is that we don't want to eat a lot at night, right? So we tend not to do that. However, if we're coming off of a fast, a particular 72-hour fast, and we break the fast at night and we don't eat that food that we ate, even though, for instance, Jennifer, you ate protein, that protein still stimulates some insulin, right? And the protein gets your body moving. So the body says, hey, there's some food in there. And it now comes back to try to begin digesting that food. And the spike in insulin makes us hungry. And if we don't put enough food in there, then by the time you go to sleep and wake up the next morning, you're going to be famished. Okay. So that's one thing to be careful of. And I think I ended, was it 6 o'clock I ended my fast? Yeah. Yeah. So it's 6. So I have gone now to starting the fast at 6 and ending the fast around 6 o'clock. That way I still have, traditionally, when I do my regular non-fasting days, I try not to eat after 6, 8 o'clock. On fasting days, when I'm breaking the fast, I do eat after that because I want to get enough in. So I break the fast with like bone broth, and you guys may have seen me break it with nuts and beans. And then I wait about an hour, hour and a half, and then I have another meal that has more stuff, and then I go to sleep. Right? I don't eat another one, but enough food so that, because now the body wants food because you've given it some, and it can make you very famished, Jennifer. But Jennifer, I'm so excited. I'm elated that you were able to fast with us and you completed the 72-hour fast. So I love that. For those of you who have not done a 72-hour fast, I'm going to give you some information here in a minute about what we want you to do and where we are. So last time we were here, I told you I was going to do a Zoom, and that Zoom, let me get in here, and so this is a Zoom meeting where you can sign up, sign in. We can actually talk to each other, and I'm going to, let's see, where is that? Here it is. I'm going to put that into the chat. I'm going to put the link into the chat, and then we'll have this come up again. We'll put it out on the website so that you guys can get out there and do that. Okay, now where is it? Give me just a second here, guys. I gotta grab it. Huh. This is interesting. Here it is. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put this in. Now where is my? I thought I heard. So Teresa said, Jennifer, great job. Yeah, great job on the 72-hour fast. She said, thank you. All right. So guys, I'm having a bit of an issue getting this into the chat. Why is that not allowing me to do it? Okay. What I'm going to do is, let me do this. I'm going to put it over here. So it should pop up here in just a sec. Okay, hold on. Okay, there you go. I think I got it in. All right, so that link that you see there, and you'll have to register. It's a Zoom that we're gonna do, and you can sign up. That's going to be on March the 14th. So not this Thursday, but it's gonna be next Thursday at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock. Okay. And let's see. All right. So you should have seen it. If you're on YouTube, you should see that out there. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so you should see that coming up there if you're on YouTube and on all the other platforms as well. Okay, awesome. All right. Teresa said, I haven't successfully done one yet. Okay, Teresa, it's a work in progress. Okay, it's a work in progress. All right. Did you guys see that? If you see that link, somebody say yes, because I haven't seen it pop up yet. Okay, here, let me see. I'll try to put it again. Okay, good. So Steve says yes. Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah. So if you click on that, you'll sign up, you register, and like I said, 7 o'clock on next Thursday, the 14th, we're gonna go. We're gonna have we'll have the Zoom. We can come in. You guys will talk. We're gonna broadcast me on the channel, but you'll be able to talk to me in the Zoom. Okay, and then we'll go from there. All right, so to my asks, right? So these is what we do every week when we come on. The first ask is for you to go ahead and join us in the challenges, right? So we've asked that you work your way up to fasting for one 24-hour period once a week. Remember, we're decreasing the amount of insulin in our body, and that has ramifications for so many different things. Remember, it's not just for those of you who are out there in diabetes, we're putting your diabetes in remission. We are reversing diabetes, but also it helps to solve lots of other issues. So number one, fasting for 24 hours once a week. Wherever you find yourself right now, go ahead and start where you are. So if you have not done 24 hours, that's okay. Let's work on If you're at 8, go to 10. If you're at 10, go to 12. If you're at 12, go to 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and then 24, right? So once a week. That's what we're moving. We're looking for progress, not perfection. Number 2, come back, join the community, right? The community is better. The community is enhanced. The community grows when you're here, right? We get to encourage each other. Well, we come to encourage in a minute. We get to encourage each other. We get to build each other. We get to see where each other are, and we get to learn together. And then finally, there are so many people out there that you know, people that have diabetes, and you can help them by sharing this link. Invite them here. Let them know what we're doing here on the channel. I love coming on. I'm so excited to be here with you. As I always say, this is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, take charge of your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, y'all, new year, new you. We'll see you at our next visit and next show, and then we'll see you at our check-in in our 72-hour fast. Good night, everybody.